thank you so much for joining me. It's going to be a fantastic panel. And to kick things off, we're actually going to hear a little bit more about what our fantastic panelists do, because we're going to start with a case study from each person, talking about practical strategies in action. So we've actually got some slides to accompany our case studies. There we go. So we're going to start with Planterra. And Thomas, can you tell us a little bit more about the work you do at Planterra and how that specifically relates to case studies? Can you maybe pick out a couple of examples of the impact that you have?
Sure. Thank you very much. So just following on from the previous panel, and I think this has been echoed throughout the conference, is that customers are looking for experiences over standard kind of products and services that we have. So unique and genuine experiences. They're also looking for connection. I think as humans, more than ever, we are looking for more of those human connections, but also those connections to nature. We also mentioned throughout the panels that markets are ever more aware of the impacts of their trips. And so when they go on vacation or holiday, they want to know that the tourism companies that they're going with are having a positive impact. And so I think community tourism can play a big part in ticking those boxes. When we talk about community tourism, we talk about community-led, owned, and managed enterprises that can be successfully integrated into the tourism supply chain. This can be meal experiences, this could be accommodation, this could be transport enterprises. It doesn't have to be customer-facing. It can be a service that is behind the scenes, that's offering a sewing and washing service, for example. The point is that enterprise is having a positive impact to tackle a challenge in that particular destination. So what we do as Planterra is that we work with social enterprises, not-for-profits, with community-based organizations to develop a tourism product that offers an amazing experience, because that's why people go on holiday, but at the same time provides a benefit for the community in the area. So one example of that is Saka Cabs, which is a women-owned, led and managed taxi service in New Delhi. And they provide the transfers from the airport to the hotel for one of our travel partners, G Adventures. So every single customer that G Adventures sends to New Delhi will use this taxi service. And this taxi service not only is providing employment for women, usually these women come from challenging backgrounds, but also provides them with the skills and the self-respect and also the dignity that a lot of women do not have access to in an environment in New Delhi which is very male-dominated. So that's one example of how tourism can not only provide an amazing experience, because imagine if you're a solo woman traveler going to New Delhi for the first time, and the first thing that you have is a taxi with a man in it, and he's taking you to your airport, and you're a little bit stressed. But if you have a woman who is providing you with that service, then you feel a lot more relaxed, and your start to your journey is much more pleasant.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So really powerful examples there of community tourism in action. So I wanted to just move on to you, Gillian. We've got the next slide. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, and thank you so much for having me. So I have a theme in which I'll be sort of looking through the lens of throughout this panel to be as helpful as possible for practical strategies for advancing sustainable initiatives, and it's around nurturing inner capacities. And at the Transformational Travel Council, that's what we do. We guide destinations and operations on integrating inner development and inner capacities, our abilities and strengths as human beings, and transformational design into sustainability strategies. So one example I wanted to provide is a pilot project that we did with adventure guides in Ecuador and in the Galapagos. So we worked with these guides to teach them to share with their travelers a reverence and a respect and a connection with the land and the place that they're visiting. So beyond going through their typical speeches and their welcoming process and the way that they would typically operate their guiding, to dig deeper, to take space and pause for reflection and meaning making when their guests are traveling in these sacred places and these natural spaces and visiting the communities. And what we've been receiving since this pilot lots of video and images. We can see here one of the images of the one on the left, I think it is, just being sent through our WhatsApp like this. We've been experiencing this, sharing our community and our place in a totally different way. And the impact we've heard back so far has been pretty profound, which has been increase in donations from the travelers who have come back home and increased their donations to the places they visited, and had an increase in repeat visitation to these places. And the guides themselves are now incorporating more of their own practical strategies for sustainability efforts, like, not using water bottles, increasing storytelling, local storytelling, sourcing locally and working with community storytellers. So there's a nice ripple effect. So we're looking to use connection and reverence to place to increase the champions of sustainability through the travelers themselves and the guides with this particular pilot project. Because the guides are so important in increasing respect and reverence for place and sustainability. They're often missed in the chain.
Thanks, Gillian. And we're going to speak a little bit more about inner development later in the session. I think it's fascinating. Before we do that, let's move on to Rika. What's your example of a practical strategy in action?
Yeah, actually, hello. Thank you for having me too. I'm very happy to be here. As you might know, I'm doing Mission Respo, but I'm also wearing the hat of being the global hat, actually, of development and public relations for Queer Destinations, a company, a startup, really founded by activists who really try to do something for the LGBTQ plus community. And I myself, I have a background also with diversity and DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And I'm one of the founding members of the Roundtable for Human Rights in tourism. So my aim was always to really connect sustainability with responsibility, because in a lot of panels or sessions wherever I go, people talk about the environmental issues, but they really forget the social issues. So that's I totally embrace what you've been saying. The social aspects of tourism play a huge role as well. So I choose Ascadi, which is the Basque country, actually, because they are one of the best practices of how, as a destination, you can really develop a code of conduct yourself. So Queer Destinations has a national strategy for Spain. And one of the Basque country, being part of Spain, decided, okay, we will go for it in a very elaborated way. So they have a code of conduct, which is really, if you look on the side, which is really, of course, it's based on the UNWTO code of ethics, and they really embed from the very beginning the people living in the country, and they also asked asked to develop this. They asked all the players, the local players in tourism. And for them, if you look at it, it's really great how they really talk about dignity of the place, of the culture, and of the people, so that people can own this code of conduct. And there's 6 different pillars, and one of the principles, the second principle actually, is also about diversity. And it's equality in diversity. And I think it's an interesting thing, because there's not a clash of culture, because you might say it's a Catholic country, why do they also embrace LGBT diversity? It's exactly because it's part of their understanding of who they are. They want to be a welcoming people, a welcoming destination. So, and by now, with Queer Destinations, they have already more than 200 companies which are working. It's either the boats, it's either the restaurants, it's either the hotels, and they all work together to make Basque Country an outstanding example of being welcoming for everybody.
That's fascinating, thank you. And some really great examples of community and social strategies in action and proving the benefit that they have. So I want to now move on to energy efficiency. So Pierre, you're coming at this from a different point of view, but this is equally important. Like, what kind of infrastructure do we need, and what can destinations and travel providers do to increase energy efficiency? And you're going to speak about a case study as well.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, sorry for my English. I'm typically French, and that's my life. Not sorry for that, but thanks a lot to World of Travel for this the organization of this event. And we had a great dinner yesterday night, and so thanks a lot, and thanks Jessica for this panel. At Hellio, what we do is we assist any kind of companies in finding the best solution. I mean, technical solution and financial solution in order to reduce the energy consumption of a site, of a transport accommodation, any kind of product, in terms of travel, but any kind of company as well. Why I say technical and financial is because, of course, we work in sustainability domain, let's say sector, but there is a lot of greenwashing in this sector, but I really believe that we can do sustainability effort, we can have some sustainability impacts really on the field, and we can find some solution to reduce the energy consumption, reduce your carbon emission, just by really concrete and practical works on your site. For example, so what we do at Hellio, we are 400 people. We reach 200 million turnover, mainly in France, but it's on the field. I mean, we go on site, we make some analysis of your site. How do you consume the energy? Where do you consume it? When do you consume it? From what kind of energy? What for? Etc. And our point is to find and to make some analysis, to know where we could work with you, to help you to choose the best investment, giving a return on investment on this topic. For example, what we did is Hilton at Hilton Strasbourg. We work on the heating system, air cooling system. On our commitment, we engage ourselves to give some warranty about the energy efficiency that we could reach. It can be 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. The point is just to know that when you do some investment with some link to the energy, you can do it with a good return on investment. For example, there we reach 6 to 8 years return on investment. Is not so good, I mean, but that's it without any calculation of increase of the electricity cost. So right now, if we compare, because that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, just because of the increase of the electricity cost, right now, the return on investment of this project is divided by 2, nearby 2. So it's 3.5 to 4. And that's, I mean, it's just finding on going on the field, very concrete action, and it's not just ideas or it's added value on your assets, because it's as well we increase the comfort, your comfort, the comfort of your customers, and at the end, of course, you will get some reduction about your energy invoice. That's the initial goal as well.
Perfect, thank you. So those are our case studies. That's a few examples of practical actions that travel companies can take right now. So we're going to now just discuss some of those points in a little bit more detail. I want to move first or back to the topic of community-based tourism and really making sure there's a local benefit of travelers visiting destinations. So we heard some great examples there from Gillian, Thomas. Gillian, can you first explain, what are the kind of missed opportunities or dangers of travel companies not involving local communities in their strategies?
Yeah, I love the way you present that as a missed opportunity, because the community participation isn't just ethical, it's an advantage, it's intelligent design in your experiences. Some of the missed opportunities would be the obvious ones, inauthentic experiences, lack of real depth in the experience, lack of diversity across experiences in a place. And then also, of course, the degradation of the economic benefit and value that tourism brings to a place without bringing in the communities, or if you bring the communities in early on the decision making, and I guess late as well, it's better late than never, but early's best. There is going to be I want to go back to I want to go back to the fragile trust, that if you are not bringing in your communities to connect with the communities on what the experiences will be, what they want to showcase to the people that are coming to visit, when they want to develop, when they want to have experiences on offer, if they want to have off seasons, because off seasons can be so important to places. It shouldn't always be on necessarily if a place doesn't want that. There can be growing resistance to tourism. So involving communities early creates that shared stewardship and cultural continuity, which is really important that's what the tour operators want. That's what the destinations want. It's good for the whole value chain. And then long-term resistance or resilience through ownership is a huge benefit. And then just because I'm here talking about inner development, the inner development link, the kind of the skills to cultivate when working and co-creating with communities would be humility and listening skills. You need that for co-creation.
Thanks, Gillian. It's clear there's so much that travel companies can do right from the start to make sure that travel follows that more sustainable path. So then moving to Thomas, you've shown some fantastic examples of what's possible through Planterra's work. So what practical advice do you have to other travel companies to embed community benefit into their offerings from the start?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. First of all, I'd like to make a distinction between community-based tourism and what we term community tourism. We use community tourism as a way of describing experiences that are owned, led, and managed by communities. Community-based tourism, in many instances, is not owned, managed, and led by communities. It can be a tour operator, travel agency, taking their guests to a community, but the communities don't have agency or control over that product whatsoever. And I think the point of control and agency is such an important thing for that experience to be genuine, to have that true feeling of connection rather than something that's staged. So that's the first point I wanted to make. In terms of integrating these experiences, these benefits into travel company itineraries, products and services, I think the first point I'd like to make is that this isn't charity. this is still business. This is still, still talking about suppliers to the supply chain. We're still talking about a service or a product that can add value to your supply chain. So first and foremost, what I would say is start by assessing your supply chain. Start by looking at those experiences, those products and services that you feel you can swap for a community-led, owned and managed enterprise. Whether this is a non-profit, a social enterprise, a community-based organization that is providing, let's say, a coffee experience, a meal experience on a part of your itinerary that you feel that would add value. One thing about working with these non-profits, with these social enterprises, to develop these amazing experiences, because let's not kid ourselves, it's about creating amazing experiences for your customers, is that they're working on issues, they're working on challenges that are contextual to that particular destination. So we're not only adding value to our business, but we're also addressing some of those key challenges that our supply chain is facing. For example, climate change impacts, for example, loneliness, for example, homelessness, for example, economic leakages. And so community tourism, I feel, takes a model where we're not just saying we're giving a hand out, we're not giving money, it's more about giving a hand up so that communities can reach their potential and have agency over how they reach their potential, using tourism as a tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, okay. And Rika, the EU might be here to help in terms of, helping people to adapt these strategies in the travel industry. Can you tell us a little bit more, because you know a lot about this, the tools that are available now from the EU to help destinations, to help travel companies adopt these more sustainable practices, things like cutting emissions as well, adapting infrastructure. Are these tools available for people to use now?
Yeah, thank you. Just adding to what Thomas says, I think we always come back to the by now famous saying that try to make places for people to live and to embrace how to live there, and then make business with it. So that we have to create destinations which are good for the local people. And exactly that's what the European Commission also really starts doing. They have had these programs quite a long time, and some of the propositions could not be realized, could not be done because of the local governments who stopped it. So, but still, I think with the new commissioner, we really have somebody who's really supporting us, Mr. De Costas. So the European Commission has already now, in August, they have published new tools how everybody who is interested in a destination or in a business can really give it a start. Because I think sometimes, GSTC tools, they are there. They have been developed. They are the best tools, actually, because they are so comprehensive and they have everything in. So people think of, how can I get certified and so on. And there's a barrier where people suddenly think, oh, am I ready to do all this? Because it is a holistic approach, which is the right approach. We have to be holistic. But we have to start somewhere. And this is why I also love, for instance, green destinations, what they do. They pick out some of the destinations who have a best practice and celebrate them for what they have achieved. And I think we need to do it. And these tools, which just came out from the European Commission, are tools where they give like practical examples, how to work with social media, how to educate your travelers, but also 50 best practices. And I think this is very good, because you, from different, from hotels, from restaurants or whatever it is, or just destination management in general, where you can pick up one of these best examples, get inspired, and see, okay, let's start. even if I don't have money now to invest a lot, because of course we need investment if we talk about climate change. All these tools cost money, and digitalization costs money. But even if you're a small tour operator and you start to rethink tourism, you can achieve something because it's a start. You look into your operation, you look into your associates. How do they feel? Is there really diversity? Are people, is there inclusion? Can I make them happier maybe if I'm inclusive so that there's even a huge benefit for the company? Because if you have people working in a company who are happy and motivated because they share a mission, you can get somewhere, even without a big investment. But this is all about also education, but we will talk about that later, I think.
Okay, thanks, Rika. I mean, it's encouraging to know that there are tools out there, particularly if you're a small business, to try to
yeah,
get started.
and for next year, and I think it was a very good move from the European Commission as well, that they ask all the stakeholders, including small local players, everybody could give their opinion, and it was like an open setting. It just closed now in September, and next year in 2026 there will be the first sustainability strategy from the European Union. And I think it's very important that we all work together, especially with all the backlashes we are experiencing from other countries, you know?
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Thomas,
yeah,
you
because we're talking about practical implementation to business. I think it's also important to recognize that some companies may feel that this might not make sense for their business from a bottom line perspective. And so it's important also to take into consideration the expectations of the businesses to be able to integrate these amazing products and these amazing benefits into the supply chain. A lot of companies think that good experiences that create good impact for destinations may cost the earth, that it's going to cost the business more. Well, actually, what we found in the last 20 years of doing this is actually we can make it either cost neutral or actually cost less to have a more positive impact, but still to retain this amazing experience, but also add value to the customer experience at the same time. And I think the proof is in the pudding, where we now have 7 travel companies that we're working with from different parts of the tourism industry, all-inclusive, mainstream tour operators, adventure tour operators, who are now engaging with community tourism because they've seen how this is good for their business. And I think it's important to recognize that it's all about business.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, like you said, we're not charities, so we need to make money, and that helps us to be able to invest in being more sustainable. So really good point. I'm getting time warning, so I want to move on to the next section of the discussion and talk a little bit more about carbon reduction and infrastructure. So Pierre, I just want to go to you, because we're talking a lot about what smaller enterprises can do, but what about like big infrastructure changes? What do you think, from an energy perspective at least, like what can destinations do, or what's the most urgent thing that a destination needs to address at the moment?
I think first of all, the problem is not to decide. The problem is to know and to have the good data to decide. It's very easy for general manager, for any technical director, any energy manager, or any hotel director to decide. But having the good data, the good knowledge to be able to choose a good investment is very complicated. Deciding is not the problem. We were talking about the money, making money, etc. The problem is not making money, is what we do with the money. It's the same in the investments. Why should we invest in this sector, in this domain? Why should we invest in the energy efficiency, in carbon emission reduction? And when you can combine that this investment is profitable and secondly have some positive impact and have some added value on your offer on your product, and as some add some value as well to your asset, because it's asset, for example, an hotel with energy monitoring system that is controlling air cooling system, heating system that is efficient, etc. If you invest, for example, on a solar panel on your site and you are able to produce, let's say 20, 30, 40% of your own production, own consumption, of course, the value of your asset is different. For big companies or big infrastructure, let's say in years to come, it's, for example, Harbor, many new investments are related to electrification. We are talking about cruise, etc. But the time of, I don't know, maybe a Poland could help us, but when we go to an harbor, you can see some big ship, and they just use their genset system for a long time just at the harbor itself. And right now, we are discussing with many harbors to be able to connect directly with some electricity system, directly the energy output of the harbor with a ship when it's just waiting. So you don't need to use your genset when you are not on the sea. But that you need some investment. So you need to make some calculation about is it profitable or not? What is the payback period of my investment? When you can combine what I just said, yes, of course you will just decide to do that.
Okay, thank you. And just want to move to you, Julian, as well. While we're talking big picture, like Pierre mentioned, I just wanted to mention the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Like there are big global goals across all sectors in terms of energy and carbon reduction. And you mentioned earlier the inner development goals, and those potentially being a practical framework that businesses can apply in order to support the broader sustainable development goals of the UN. So can you tell us a little bit more about, you touched on it earlier, but how these inner development goals support the broader goals of the UN?
Yes, so the inner development goals were created to help advance the Sustainable Development Goals, which have had they're a beautiful set of goals of anti-poverty reduction, not just carbon, it has the social aspects, it's very well comprehensive, but it's stalled and most of the goals are not going to be achieved by 2030. And one of the factors the Inner Development Goals Foundation argues is because of the lack of the human foundation for sustainability, incorporating or activating the human capacities that we have, those beautiful skills, those soft skills, as Sid mentioned yesterday, that are needed to bring forward these very ambitious and important goals. So specifically with carbon reduction, and I wanted to mention that all of the inner development, the practical strategies are complementing every strategy that the panel has mentioned. It's in concert with not meant to be alone. So specifically with carbon reduction, how can you use the inner development goals for that? Well, some goals or some skills that you would need would be, first of all, long-term thinking, complex thinking, beyond being able to see beyond short-term ROI. You also have to have courage. You have to have courage to make decisions that are difficult, sometimes unprofitable. You have to have some courage to lose some money sometimes as a leader, which is a really big deal. But if you can know that in advance and harness that ability, that courage, then you'll be able to do it more often and more consistently. And then collaboration and empathy, that's been something that has come up so much in this conference. And this is an inner skill. So acknowledging that there's a shared responsibility across the supply chain and with competitors even to collaborate and to empathize. And then finally, presence, the ability to, and the awareness to feel impact beyond metrics. It's just a difficult thing to appreciate, I think, but sometimes the positive benefits or negative benefits you can just feel instinctually, and those things are often ignored as within sustainability specifically. So without these frameworks, we can think of the tools like carbon calculators, mitigation, etc., to be surface level. So and one quick example about what the TTC does, we embed reflection and purpose in our training to help leaders feel the why behind these decisions that they're making. And then that inner alignment when you have inner alignment, it makes sustainability become instinctual rather than something you need to sort of mark off a box.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to just move on to measurement and communication of some of these initiatives as well before we finish up our panel, because I think that's very important, especially in light of what we were discussing yesterday with all the political headwinds around sustainability. Like, you can make all this progress involving communities, brilliant social projects, carbon reduction initiatives, but then there's this real fear. That's only part of the challenge. There's now a fear about how we responsibly communicate what we're doing as an industry for fear of sustainability hushing, or greenwashing, sorry. So Thomas, just wanted to get your perspective on how companies can communicate their efforts and progress without triggering backlash or greenwashing allegations.
Yeah, well, there's different audiences for communication, right? As a company, you need to communicate to your shareholders, you need to communicate to your customers, but you also need to communicate internally to your staff. We need to motivate our staff to do the work that they're doing. So I think there's different ways to do that, but fundamentally, when we're talking about positive impact, it's important to have a robust data collection framework that holds water and that you can use to back up what you're claiming that you're doing. Right? Yeah. So it's important to work first and foremost on developing that framework in order for you to be able to collect the data that makes sense, not only for your company to be able to show the amazing work that you're doing in destinations to increase the positive impacts for people and nature, but also if a journalist comes knocking, that you have, this is where I collected it, this is how I collected it, this is who I collected it with, and being able to systematize, to organize that data in a way which you can then easily access. So we use our CRM system with the data that we collect from our annual impact surveys and the quarterly reporting that we do with all of the work that we do and have to report to our travel company partners to. Yeah. I think it comes down to you can't manage what you don't measure. So it's very important to be able to measure the impacts in order to be able to communicate them in an appropriate way. Yeah. I think the point is that we also focus quite a lot. I've heard today a few statistics. It's all about quantitative data. But let's not underestimate the power of qualitative data, of those personal stories of how the impact is being perceived in that destination. Yeah. Those personal stories of how tourism has had a profound impact for that community because they've been given agency, control, integrity. They've been able to send their kids to higher education when they've never been able to do that before. Yeah. Those are the stories that resonate with the customers. Mm-hmm. And lastly, the point I'd like to make is about customers. If you're able to have your customers experience those positive impacts that you're having through your tourism for those communities, those are going to be the ambassadors for the work that you're going to do. They're going to come back from holiday. They're going to be posting on social media, telling their friends and family about the impact that you're having. Yeah. And they would have experienced it firsthand.
Absolutely. I mean, love your point about data as well. I mean, we talk so much about data, but stories, like real life stories, really bring that to life. And then your last point about the traveller themselves. I wanted to move on to you, Rika, to speak about travellers, because I mentioned that at the beginning. Like, traveller intentions are great, but how can we really, as travel companies, educate these travellers to understand the complexity of sustainability, and how can we encourage them to actually make sustainable travel decisions?
Well, that's not so easy, because I think there's always, people are ready to be sustainable, but they're not ready to pay. And this is there since many, many years. But it is changing. And I also believe that Gen Z is going to think a little bit different, because they understand that their future is in danger. So there is a shift already. But I think we can also, if we are ourselves sure that we really want to be a sustainable business, we can help to persuade, in a positive way, of course, our clients as well. And all these certification programs, they help, because if you communicate all the time that this hotel has been certified and it's not a greenwashing certification, but here is a profound result, then the clients will also start to, if they hear it all the time, they will really start to say, okay. And if you also address all the groups of all the travelers, because this is another thing which is not happening. We normally address only the white average couple or whatever, but we do not all parts of society. So this is where diversity comes in again. But if you see yourself reflected in an ad and you hear about sustainability, you will support it because you see yourself reflected in that ad as a black person or as a gay person or whatever. So I think we need to really try to, with policymakers, we need the policymakers to support it. Like Brussels, they said, we want to be a welcoming city for everybody, so we will pay for this certification to make hotels welcoming. Yeah. But this is not happening everywhere. And if you go to destinations which are not interested in sustainability because they ignore sustainability, then you have to go to the privates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we all need to cooperate, I think.
Definitely. So really good points. And I'm sorry, but we are out of time. So if we could just finish on literally one word of advice, what is the top practical action any travel company could take? Could you do it in a word or two or three? In 5 seconds.
Why this play? Just reflection. If you're making decisions, think about why, what the purpose is, and that impact matters.
Yeah, so purpose, great, thank you. Thomas?
For me, the word is reciprocity. I think that reciprocity is what makes life sustainable on this planet. Mm-hmm. And the travel companies that want to sustain their businesses, that embed reciprocity as a concept within the core of their business, are going to be the travel leaders of tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Reciprocity, I can't even say it, but brilliant word. Pierre?
I think that sustainable investment has to have a really quick payback period. That's very important. Otherwise, you will not do it, and you will not develop that. And just to point about the image impact, sorry for the time, but it's very important to know that in France, for example, there is a new regulation. And the new regulation decided to launch the name and shame. Mm-hmm. And if your hotel doesn't reduce your energy consumption by 40% before 2030, the name of your company will be published on a government site saying that you didn't achieve your energy efficiency commitment.
Perfect. So name and shame, I like it. And Rika, could you give us a one-word answer?
Yeah, also to, awareness raising. We need to continue to do awareness raising. Yep. And we need collaboration, and we need compassion.
Okay, that was 3 words, but I like them all. Thank you so much to our panelists. Brilliant. Thanks very much.